know that a Mashiach preached to the Ruachs that are in prison. He preached to the Ruachs that are in prison for one cause and one cause alone. And of course, you could look at Joseph as an example. There's an example of it in Ezekiel. There's an example of it in Job, and several other locations. He preached to them for one reason and one reason alone, because of those who had never heard the gospel of Yahusha HaMashiach before his death and resurrection. So they got an opportunity to hear it. Peter put it as, in these words, that they might be judged according to men in the flesh, but live according to Elohim, of him preaching to them that are dead. You know what I'm saying? Because Abraham didn't hear it, Isaac didn't hear it, Jacob didn't hear it, David didn't hear it. That was not revealed unto their generation during the dispensation of their lifetime. They never heard that because he had not been manifested. The story was still being written. But once Hamashiach came and finished the story, he came and he elucidated that story unto them, so that they may receive it to be quickened to life everlasting, the same as we are. Without him doing that, they would have not had an opportunity of salvation. You know, because and I know what initially caused it to me even to get the inspiration for it was individuals asking, well, what about the people who had never heard Yahusha before he was manifested? Because I done seen that First Peter 4 numerous times, read it numerous times, and for a continual period of time. He had not gave me the inspiration to be able to expand on that to cause a man to understand it. He gave it when he saw fit for me to be able to cause it to understand it. But at this point, you know, praise be to Yah for Yahusha, we've looked at it at least 6 to 7 different ways. But it was the mercy of Elohim for those who came before Mashiach, for them to receive it, so they could have right to that tree of life. Because we kind of talked about this when we were talking about him recreating the beginning. Because even with the recreating of the beginning, he created Eden, and he's going to recreate Eden as Jerusalem at the end. And then we know what was in Eden, and it will also be in Jerusalem. And the fruit or the byproduct of the righteous is a tree of life, because this is what the righteous expel. And we will look at that using Josiah, and then we'll also look at his son Jehoiakim as the contrast, because of the recompense to the wicked, because of the fruit that Josiah produced. It was a tree of life. And when we look at the tree of life, when we look at the fruits of the Ruach, and we see that that tree is for the healing of the nations, we're going to read all of that, and then we see the manifestation of what fruits would come from that tree, then you will see how the nations would be healed. Nevertheless, and I, Yakanan, saw these things and heard them, and when I had heard and seen, I fell down to worship before the feet of the Malachim, which showed me these things. Then saith he unto me, see thou do it not, for I am thy fellow servant, and of thy brethren the prophets, of them which keep the sayings of this book, worship Elohim. He saith unto me, seal not the sayings of the prophecy of this book, for the time is at hand. He that is unjust, let him be unjust still. He which is filthy, let him be filthy still. He that is righteous, let him be righteous still. He that is Kadash, let him be Kadash still. And behold, I come quickly, and my reward is with me, to give to every man according as his work shall be. So you're going to get exactly what you earned. So if you go to hell, you earn that. Because his reward is with him, and he's going to give you according to what you ought to get, as we read in Romans, and we're going to go back to Romans chapter 2. At the same token, if you make it into the kingdom, it's because you will be rewarded for your labor. That's why he said we ought to labor and to enter into his rest, and not to fall after the same example of unbelief that caused your forefathers not to enter into the land. And one of the matters that we talked about when we talked about the children being immersed, and that people 20 and under were the only ones to get in because they didn't labor in faith. Now Paul is going to make mention in Romans chapter 2 of justification from your actual obedience. But that obedience can only be birthed through an actual faith, which will be your ultimate justification. Swing back to Romans chapter 2. Hold on, Acts chapter 10. My apologies. I've got to finish the point of there is no respect of person. Because see, I was talking about this last night. You know how hard-headed these people got to be. Paul was preaching to Yahusha, and these niggas didn't believe and didn't want to hear it and talk so bad. Then he say, screw it, man. I'll go to these Gentiles. They'll hear it. See, our people are so stiff-necked and rebellious and malicious and spiteful to the people. And we're going to read a verse for that too. Y'all willing? To the people who y'all send to them for their benefit, that those men just feel like, screw it, man. Because remember, y'all said that to Ezekiel. If I would have sent you to another people of another speech who couldn't understand your words, they would listen to they would believe every word of it. He said, but I'm sending you to Yahusha. He said, they not going to believe you because they don't believe me. Let that sit there and resonate and sink into your brain. That your God himself told one of his priests that if I sent you to a heathen nation, they'll believe every word you say. But these people right here ain't going to believe nothing. Not a word of it. That's just something to consider. Do with it what you will. Acts chapter 10, verse 34. Then Peter opened his mouth and said, of a truth I perceive that Elohim is no respecter of persons, but in every nation he that fear him and work righteousness is accepted with him. And the reason why I mention this here, because I seen a couple brothers. Well, I mean, I wasn't thinking about that till the turn now till I just read that. But it was a couple brothers. One brother asked a question which caused multiple people to come out about, would you marry a Gentile woman who kept the law or an Israelite woman who did not? I wouldn't care if you were black or not. I'm not marrying no sinner. That's the dumbest thing ever in the history of man. Solomon shows you that. You know what I'm saying? That is just dumb. There is not a single see, there's a difference of I'm married to you and we were sinners together, and then y'all opened my heart to the word, and now I'm walking in the word and you still are unbeliever. Completely different situation and scenario than picking a sinner and marrying a sinner and you were already in the way, which is a lot of people in the world who do that because they feel like they can't find an acceptable mate, so they'll just rather take somebody from the world, so to speak. I've seen people make the proclamation. It would be better for you to be alone than to marry a sinner. That is the dumbest thing ever. I don't know why people think that you can convert somebody over through being married to them. You know what I'm saying? That's not going to convert anyone to anything. You know what I'm saying? It's just not going to happen, because that person has to already want to have a desire to do that of their own volition. You know what I'm saying? If people get in that situation to do it, they're really doing it to try to appease their mate, and it ain't coming from the heart, and they end up losing their soul. Well, you may feel happier thinking this person is serving Yah, but they really going through the motions. So they going through the motions. That's to the detriment of their own soul. So you really put your own selfish desires or whatever you were seeking after above this person's soul, and that's messed up. You know what I'm saying? It's not cool. That's not right on the person's end who's supposed to be in the way, because they're supposed to have a lot better judgment and compassion and mercy to say, and selflessness than to put their desires above somebody's soul because they want a companion. You know what I'm saying? And these dudes arguing back and forth with it. Y'all just want an excuse to marry a Gentile woman. And I'm like, boy, if you ain't have no choice and you had to marry somebody of another nation who kept the word, or marry somebody of your own nation who's a sinner, I would choose the righteous person every time, because I'm not a respecter of persons. What it came at is these people showed they were a respecter of persons. You know what I'm saying? Or thinking that people want this or want that. And it's just really about righteousness. That's what it really should be about. Do you know what I'm saying? Hold on. Hello?
Hello?
Yeah.
Willie, signing in.
Hey, how you doing, brother?
Okay, great. Thank you.
All right. So you have to think about that. And the only reason why I'm mentioning that particular example is because of the respective persons that was showed in it. Because that was an extreme situation of respective person. Nevertheless, Romans chapter 2. We're in verse 12. For as many as have sinned without Torah shall also perish without Torah, and as many as have sinned in the Torah shall be judged by the Torah. For you are those who may not remember when we dealt with that, so you can understand it. For those who sinning without the law, perishing without the law, that is the Canaanites when we went in the land. They sinned against the law and they perished without the law. Now you know your ancestors had the law and perished with it because they didn't keep it. For not the hearers of the Torah are just before Elohim, but the doers of the Torah shall be justified. So if you want that justification to be considered to be righteous, you can't hear. So that's why I say the hearers and the doers. You know why you would be considered a doer? Because faith come by hearing, and hearing come by the word, and the just shall live by their faith. So if you hear the word, you're going to live it. You're going to do it. Because see, let me show y'all something. Romans chapter 14, verse 23. Romans 14 and 23. Make it 14 and 20. 14 and 17 to be would be better. For the kingdom of Elohim is not meat and drink, but righteousness and shalom and joy in the Ruach HaKodesh. So I went ahead and went in that direction because the feast is. You just had one feast. You know, the winter feasts are here. And now, of course, atonement ain't going to be no feasting. But then you got tabernacles. So we say, let us therefore follow after things which make for shalom and things wherewith one may edify one another. This is going about how the fruit of the righteous is a tree of life, and he that wins souls is wise. You know what I'm saying? If you not winning souls, you're not necessarily, you're not necessarily, you're not showing any wisdom. He say, for meat destroy not the work of Elohim. All things indeed are pure, but it is evil for that man who eat with offense. It is good neither to eat flesh, nor to drink wine, nor anything whereby thy brother stumble, or is offended, or is made weak. Hast thou faith, have it to thyself before Elohim. Baruch is he that condemn not himself in the thing which he allow, and he that doubt is damned if he eat, because he eat not of faith. For whatsoever is not of faith is sin. So, when we look at why your ancestors fell in the wilderness, because everything they did, it was not of faith. Even when they sat down and they ate that lamb on the 14th day of that first month, they were damned because it was not of faith. And they manifested that and showed that as time went on. When they asked for them quail, they were damned because it was not of faith. It was out of their own desires and lusts. Same thing with the manna. Everything that they did in the wilderness, it was not of faith, and it was sin unto them. See, let's look at Hebrews chapter 3 so you can follow me. I promise you I will. I'm working towards something. He's taking a long way there. Hebrews 3 and 15. Gail. Hey, Gail. Hey, Gail. While it is said today, if you will hear his voice, harden not your hearts, as in the provocation. For some, when they had heard, did provoke. You notice when it said, when some heard, they provoked. When some heard, they provoked. But he said it's not the hearers that are justified, but it's the doers. So they heard it, they didn't believe it. They provoked him when they heard it. They didn't want to do it. They wanted to try the man, test him. They got rewarded according to their works. He said, but with whom was he? But for some when they had heard did provoke, howbeit not all that came out of Mizraim by Moses. But with whom was he grieved 40 years? Was it not with them that had sinned, whose carcasses fell in the wilderness? And to whom swear he that they should not enter into his rest, but to them that believe not? So we see they could not enter in because of unbelief. And it's going to be no different coming up out of Mizraim into this kingdom, into this rest. You will not enter in if you don't believe, because he is going to reward you according to your works. Jeremiah 17 and 5. Hey, Tubby. Hi. Hey, Tubby. Hi. Huh? I don't have it.
What?
Yeah? What is that?
Yeah.
This puzzle? Jeremiah 17:5. Thus saith Yahuwah, cursed be the man that trust in man, who make flesh his arm, whose heart depart from Yahuwah. Now I had to explain this to a brother. When he say cursed be the man that trust in man, trust is having confidence in somebody. That does not mean that you can't have confidence or trust in a human being. Notice he said who make flesh his arm. Because the arm is the yod or the right hand, and that right hand is Yahusha. So if you make your defense or your arm a man over Yahuwah, you are damned. That's it. That's what that means. Period. You know what I'm saying? That was Yasharal's mistake in numerous instances. They sought to man. That's what got Hezekiah in trouble when he was sick. He sought for a man. You know what I'm saying? There's instances of that. That's what got Ahab in trouble, if I'm not mistaken, if it was him. He was saying it's not Elohim and Yasharal. Well, that's what Elisha came and stepped to him about. When these men were sick, they sought to men instead of Elohim. Or instances where we were about to go to battle and they sought to make leagues with men instead of Elohim. So you have to know what he means when he talking about that. He say, for he shall be like the heath in the desert, and shall not see when good come, but shall inhabit the parched places in the wilderness, and a salt land not inhabited. Baruch is the man that trusts in Yahuwah, whose hope Yahuwah is. Listen to what he says this man will be. For he shall be as a tree planted by the waters, that spread out her roots by the river, and shall not see when heat come, but her leaf shall be green, and shall not be careful in the year of drought, neither shall cease from yielding fruit. The heart is deceitful above all things, and desperately wicked. Who can know it? I, Yahuwah, search the heart. I try the reins, even to give every man according to his ways and according to the fruit of his doings. Every situation and circumstance that you get put in is this man testing you to see what's in your heart. That's how he got to try you to prove you out. Period. Some have done bad in certain situations, and some have done mediocre, and some have done well. You know what I'm saying? But he want to see what's in your heart. And not only that, for him to see what's in your heart, but for you to see your own heart. Because sometimes somebody can tell you, and you may not believe it, or you may not even want to hear it. And sometimes you make it, and somebody may tell you something, and you can see it clear as crystal. But when he put you in certain situations and pull out what's in your heart, you ain't going to be able to deny it unless you reprobate. Once he pull out and he show you, see this here, and 9 times out of 10, before he put you in that situation to pull what's in your heart, somebody had already done told you, or you had already heard it through the word, but you didn't want to accept it. So you had to see it in person. So whatever it is that you got going on in your heart, you can get it up out of there. Because a lot of times the faith don't be right, or this man is not first and foremost in your heart. You got a lot of other stuff going on in there. You got a lot of other stuff you seeking after, and he ain't your number one priority. Because people always say you can't know people's heart, but we looked at that a little bit Wednesday, and we looked at it several other times before. That is a lie. You can definitely know somebody's heart. All you have to do is bring forth the word of Elohim. All you got to do is listen to people's words. All you got to do is pay attention to people's actions. He said the abundance of the heart, the mouth speak. You can see clear as day what's in somebody's heart. They showing you every single day. You just not paying attention. He told you by their fruits you gonna know them. So you're not paying attention to the fruit of some men's words. You're not paying attention to the fruit of some men's works. What more do you need to see to understand and know if a man be of Yah or if a man not be of Yah? It's not that hard to tell if you're paying attention. It's not really that hard to tell. It's not hard to tell. This man done told you everything ain't no great mystery or hard to figure out. We just see what we want to see. Just like some people talk to who they want to talk to and hang around who they want to hang around. People hear what they want to hear. They see what they want to see based on whatever perspective or narrative they're trying to frame in their mind at the time. Nevertheless, let's go to Josiah. Let's go to 2 Chronicles 34. Let's look at how this man show forth the fruits of righteousness, and sit back and see how he will win his souls. Second Chronicles 34. Now keep that in mind about that tree, because we're going to work our way toward that tree and everything that go along with that. Let's look at the first thing he did. Let's look at Second Chronicle chapter 34, and let's look at verse 5. It's just a little rehash with old Josiah, because Jehoiakim's story is not that long. It's more spoke of him in the book of Jeremiah than it is in these Chronicles. And he said, he burnt the bones of the priests upon their altars and cleansed Yehuda and Jerusalem. So did he in the cities of Manasseh and Ephraim and Simeon, even unto Naphtali, with her mattocks round about. And when he had broken down the altars and the groves, and had beaten the graven images and the powder, and cut down all the idols throughout all the land of Yasharal, he returned to Jerusalem. And now in the 18th year of his reign, when he had purged the land and the house, he sent Shaphan the son of Azaliah, and Messiah the governor of the city, and Joha the son of Joahaz the recorder, to repair the house of Yahuwah his Elohim. The first work that we see this man doing is he's showing forth the faith of Elohim. Remember, say the fruit of the righteous is as a tree of life. So the first thing we see with him tearing down all the idols and destroying all the idols, the first thing we see is faith. Let's pause and let's get Ephesians 5. And I want y'all to keep y'all fingers there once we get there, as we pull out some of these fruits that this man manifested. Because you got to understand something. The fruits is the byproduct of the seed. See, the seed has to be planted, the seed has to die, and then the fruit can be grown. See, if the seed is not planted, and we know from Luke 8 and 11, the seed is the word of Elohim. So if that seed is not planted, and then that seed doesn't die, which means, as we talked about when we were dealing with those immersions, and I didn't grab that Galatians chapter 2, so that's my apologies with the justification part, forgive me for that. But he told you that if we seek to be justified by the law, then Mashiach is of no consequence to us, but we seek to be justified by the faith of Mashiach. So no longer it is I that live, but he that died and rose again, he lives in me. So if you allow that seed to die, meaning you die to your flesh, to the world, your desires, then you can manifest the fruits of the Ruach to show forth the evidence of the purchase. See, people like to talk about the fruits of the Ruach, and they just think that, oh, if I do these things or say I got the fruits, and that's not what it is. And some of y'all know this, and some of you may not. You know that seed has to be planted. Y'all know the parable of the sower. That seed has to fall in good ground. You have to understand the word and do it to bring forth that fruit. We know that Master said, except the corn of wheat fall on the ground and abide alone, but if it die, it bring forth much fruit. We know 2 Kings 19 and 29 say you will bear root downward to bear fruit upward. So in order for you to be able to do this, to be able to manifest these fruits, you have to die. You have to suffer in the flesh to cease from sin, that you no longer live your time in the flesh to the will of man, but to the will of Elohim. If you're not willing to do that, it is going to be outright impossible to bear this fruit. You're not going to be able to do it. See, we wonder why people can't be able to do it is because they have not died, which means they do not believe, which means they heard the word and provoked this man with their works, the same way your forefathers did in the wilderness. Because they heard the word and they tried them. See, I'm going to do this right here. I'm going to test them with this right here. I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. You got to pay attention to that. I got you, Doc. You got to pay attention to that. You got to be focused on that. Because if you're not focused on that, you're not going to be able to manifest this fruit. You have to die to manifest this fruit. Ephesians 5 and yeah. That's Galatians. I'm an idiot. My apologies. Wrong chapter. 5 and 22. 5 and 22. But the fruit of the Ruach is love, joy, shalom, long suffering, gentleness, goodness, faith, meekness, temperance. Against such there is no law. Listen to what this man finna say. And they that are Mashiachs have crucified the flesh with the affections and lusts. So if you belong to him, in order for you to do this, you had to crucify your flesh to your affections and your lusts, to your flesh, to your desires. That's it. You're not going to be able to do it no other way. Now, the first thing we see with him tearing down the idols and repairing the house is a combination of love and faith. He showed love and faith in doing this. He showed love and faith in doing this. This is the fruit of the righteous. It is a tree of life. Let's see how some more. Let's go back to 2 Chronicles 34. And let's look at more of what he did. Let's move around a little bit. Let's move around a little bit. And let's look at the discovery of the book of the law. Let's look at verse 14. Like I said, we looked at this stuff the other day, but we're going to look at it a little different. Let's see what we got going on. 34 and 14. And when they brought out the money that was brought into the house of Yahuwah, who Hilkiah the priest found the book of the Torah of Yahuwah given by Moses. Hilkiah answered and said to Shaphan the scribe, I have found the book of the Torah in the house of Yahuwah. And Hilkiah delivered the book to Shaphan. Shaphan carried the book to the king and brought the king word back again, saying that all that was committed to thy servants, they do it. And they gathered together the money that was found in the house of Yahuwah, and they delivered into the hand of the overseers, into the hand of the workmen. Then Shaphan the scribe told the king, saying, Hilkiah the priest hath given me a book. And Shaphan read it before the king. And it came to pass when the king heard the words of the Torah that he rent his clothes. And the king commanded Hilkiah and Hakam the son of Shaphan, and Abaddon the son of Micah, and Shaphan the scribe, and Asaiah servant of the king, saying, Go inquire of Yahuwah for me, and for them that are left in Yasharal and Yehudah, concerning the words of the book that is found. For great is the wrath of Yahuwah that is poured out upon us, because our fathers have not kept the word of Yahuwah to do after all that is written in this book. What we see this man doing, which fruit of the Ruach do we see him manifest in this particular verse? We see him, and what we just read, we see him manifesting meekness. Because he humbled himself under the mighty hand of Elohim for Elohim to exalt him. Let's look at something in Joel chapter 2 though. Just a little statement, because he said he rent his clothes, which was for a sign of mourning. That's why he say, Blessed are those that mourn, they shall be comforted. Yahuwah certainly comfort Josiah. See, and that's the thing that we be mentioning. If you contrary to the word and you hear it and it doesn't move you to do as these men did, to mourn and to weep and to seek Yahuwah, then your heart is very hard. It is very, very hard because it hasn't been softened. That's why he said, I got to take the heart of stone out of you and give you a heart of flesh. You know, I know a lot of times too, right? A lot of people feel like, oh, because it's been said about me personally. And we want Joel chapter 2, verse 12. I don't know if I said Joel, but if I did not, I apologize. Joel chapter 2, verse 12. Oh, he's a hellfire and brimstone preacher, this, that, there, and the third. And praise Yah for Yahusha. He's allowed us to be very diverse in subject matter and topics and dealings. We've dealt with so many different things. Coming up next month, literally making 5 years. You know what I'm saying? So people only hear the aspect of the word that they want to hear because their hearts are so hardened against righteousness. So a nigga will take because they're doing things that are contrary as if you poking or picking at them. You know what I'm saying? When it's just a word coming out to get you to discard whatever behavior or thoughts that you're possessing that will cause you to be separated from Elohim. That's how much he loves you. That's how much he has no desire to see your destruction. But our pride get in the way because we don't want to relinquish those things. This is why they killed the prophets all the time. This is why they jailed them. This is why they mocked them. This is why they misused them and mistreated them, as the word said, because these men did not come bearing happy joy news. They didn't come patting people on the back. So when they would say certain things, niggas would get mad at them because they would take it personal. They were taking it personal because the words that they were speaking may have not been personally directed towards that individual, but it was personal towards them because they were committing the act. So they were offended. And when in actuality, you offended at the word because there's something in us that does not cause us to want to repent and cast that work aside. Because at the end of the day, if it's that man word, you should be happy enough. Every last one of us sitting here looking at it, all of us know that we all worthy of death. All of us know that we all done did things and walked contrary to this man's word for an extended period of time. It don't matter if it was before you knew the truth. It doesn't matter if it was during. It doesn't matter. Do you know what I'm saying? It doesn't really matter. We all know we worthy of death. Every single individual who can hear the sound of my voice, sitting in this room, watching on this camera, we all know that. We all know that. It's not one of us that don't know that. So then if you know that and you get a word that is pinpointing something that you are doing that is contrary to the word, you ought to rejoice that he had enough mercy to give you a word of correction and rebuke so that you might learn righteousness, that the man of Elohim might be perfect instead of being upset about it. But we don't think like that. Hello? What's going on, brother? We don't think like that. We don't think like that because we more concerned about justifying ourselves, which goes back to we hear the word and then we provoke him. We hear him and then we try him. Because we not hearing with a heart of faith, we got that heart of stone in us versus that heart of flesh. And that's something to consider because it ain't about being right. It's being right with Yahuwah is what it's about. It's not about, it's your feelings don't matter. You know what I'm saying? Now, I can't say because a lot of y'all are younger than me. Most of y'all are younger than me. You know what I'm saying? But y'all come from a generation where they were more concerned about your feelings. That was catered to y'all. And it's not y'all fault. It's not like y'all fostered that environment and that type of mentality. You know what I'm saying? It's partially your fault as you get older if you stay in it, but it's partially not your fault because that's just the environment and societal construct that you were brought in. So now you feel like somebody's supposed to care about your feelings. You know what I'm saying? When nobody cares, your feelings don't matter. It doesn't matter when it's dealing with the word. Your feelings don't matter. They don't matter. You know how many people got themselves in trouble in this book because their feelings was hurt? Who cares if your feelings are hurt? This man say, Baruch is the man whom thou chastise out of thy law. If this man is correcting you and checking you, it's because he loves you and you worry about your feelings? What about your soul? What about eternal life? But you worry about your feelings. So you have your feelings in hell. That makes no sense. That is not an even trade. It is not an even trade. When you can discard your feelings and walk by the Ruach and dwell in this man's kingdom forever and have right to the tree of life. That makes sense. That is what makes sense. Because again, your feelings is your flesh. Your flesh is sinful and wicked by nature. And you have to separate yourself from it and to walk in the Ruach. Because if you walk in the Ruach, you will not fulfill the desires of the flesh. But if you yield yourself to the flesh, you will die. And there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. To be carnally minded is death. The flesh profit nothing. The words that I speak unto you, they are ruach and they are life. That is what the master said. The master said the ruach quicken. He says his words are life. Your flesh don't get you no gain. Discard it. It don't. We just had this conversation last week. When you got to deal with, and I'm not talking about natural things. So let me make sure I make a strong distinction and separation. Because naturally, if you tell somebody, this is how I feel. This is how I'm feeling right now. That's all well and good. You know what I'm saying? That should be adhered to and considered by the person you're expressing that to. But when the word is being dealt with, I'm talking about the word. How I feel should never be the words that come out of your mouth. Dealing with the word. Because now that's your flesh and your desires. I seen a brother say today straight up and down. Niggas are making doctrines that are self-satisfying and pleasing to them. And even when you're dealing with matters of facts and logic, your emotions can't come into play. You got to be careful with that. It's one thing of expressing your feelings or expressing how words may have made you feel in a particular situation, or what somebody did, how that caused you to feel at that particular amount. The reason why I say that, because how you feel will pass. You don't walk around habitually sad 24 hours a day unless you're dealing with depression. And even with that, you still have high days and low days. You know what I'm saying? Nobody walks around angry 24/7 unless you're a sociopath or a psychopath. And even then, they're not angry every day. That's why I mention that, because emotions pass, because it's a feeling for the moment, and the Ruach is eternal. That's why I said the word of Elohim abide forever. The Ruach abide forever. You died in your flesh, you're like grass, you will wither away and burn, just like the book say. Because it's for a moment, it's fleeting. Can't allow yourself to be directed by it. Joel chapter 2 verse 12. Therefore also saith Yahuwah, turn ye even to me with all your heart. Listen what he tells you. With fasting, and with weeping, and with mourning. Now we don't read with Josiah and fasting, but they definitely wept and mourned. That's how they turned to him. But see, don't turn to that man with all that fakeness, because some of y'all know how to cry real good. You know what I'm saying? Make a nigga believe ain't nothing wrong with you. Some of you know, and the reason I said it, because some of y'all grew up just like how these kids in here be doing when they be upset with that fake crying. Ain't a tear coming out their eye. Ain't nothing wrong with you. You got to do just like this man said. You got to have a humble and contrite heart. He say he does not despise the broken ruach. That's where that godly sorrow come in that we talked about recently. Listen what he tell you though. Rend your heart and not your garments. And turn unto Yahuwah your Elohim, for he is favorable and merciful, slow to anger, and of great kindness, and repent him of the evil. You know what he said? Tear your heart up. Tear your heart up. And return. Let the unrighteous man forsake his thoughts, and the wicked man his way. And guess what? Yahuwah is favorable. He's merciful. He's slow to anger. He's got great kindness. And he'll turn from the evil that he thought to do to you if you just repent. See, hold on. Let's look at Revelation chapter 2 where the master said the same thing, because he just like his daddy. So you got to see that though. Don't play with your space. Because like people say grace period, you don't know. There's no such thing in the book as a grace period, so to speak. But he'll give you time to correct yourself. Don't play with it though. Don't play with it though. Because if you don't want to retain this man in your knowledge, he'll give you over. Y'all forbid that happen to any of you. You know what I'm saying? Just like we were talking about on trumpets. Be careful on wanting stuff. Be careful on what you want. Especially if what you want take you outside this man's word, because he'll mess around and give it to you. Just to see what your end going to be. Because he know it's going to destroy you and take you down. He let you have it. He give you just what you're looking for. And you got to be careful with that. You got to be careful with that. You got to be careful on anything that you desiring that could cause you to get outside the will of Elohim. Because Yah will let you have that to carry you right outside the will of Elohim. He has no problem with it whatsoever. Because that's what you wanted. So he just gave you what you wanted. You know the old saying that people say, be careful what you wish for, because you might just get it. Be careful what you desire for, because Yah might just give it to you. That's what he did to your forefathers in the wilderness. They desired flesh to eat, and he gave it to them and killed them right after that too. He gave them just what they wanted. You wanted flesh? I got you. I got you. Don't even worry about it. So pay attention. Revelation 2 and 26. My apologies. We need 2 and 20. 26 would have not got us what we needed. Notwithstanding, I have a few things against thee, because thou suffered that woman Jezebel, which called herself a prophetess, to teach and seduce my servants to commit fornication and to eat things sacrificed unto idols. And I gave her space to repent of her fornication, and she repented not. And behold, I will cast her into a bed, and them that commit adultery with her in the great tribulation, except they repent of their deeds. And I will kill her children with death. And all the synagogues shall know that I am he, which search the reins and the hearts, and I will give unto every one of you according to your works. See, he said he gave her a little space to repent. He will turn from the evil that he pronounced against you if you just rend your heart and turn. But see, if you don't rend your heart, you just pump faking. You might well put the thing down and do what you do. Might as well. Some of y'all know from the time that I've encountered you that that's the number one thing I've always told you, and that's what this thing is always about. It's about your heart. What is in your heart will dictate your actions. As a man thinketh, so he is. If you thinketh as matter of fact, Isaiah chapter 26 and verse 3. I ain't read it in a while. And since we closing in on 5 years of putting in work, the only person here who can bear witness to that is Muffin. I used to read this verse to them at least twice a week. Every week too. One way or another. Find a way to work that in. Find a way to work this in. Isaiah 26 and 3. Make it 26 and 1. Ain't gonna hurt nothing. Because we working our way to this anyway. In that day shall this song be sung in the land of Yehuda. We have a strong city. Salvation will Elohim appoint for walls and bulwarks. Notice he's saying salvation will he appoint for walls and bulwarks. And we kind of talk about that building that wall with that separation. That's Mashiach. He the wall, he the bulwark, he is the safety, he's the strong tower. Listen what else he say. Open ye the gates that the righteous nation which keep the truth may enter in. Thou will keep him in perfect shalom whose mind is stayed on thee because he trusts in thee. He said thou will keep him in perfect shalom whose mind is stayed on thee because he trusts in thee. Trust ye in Yahuwah forever, for in Yahuwah is everlasting strength. Trust ye in Yahuwah forever, for in Yahuwah is everlasting strength. And see, that's the whole key thing. As a man thinketh, so he is. He said, let this mind be in you. The same mind that be in Mashiach. If you want to be like Elohim, you got to think like Elohim. If you want to think like Elohim, then the word of Elohim got to be in your heart. And when the word of Elohim is in your heart, it will dictate your actions. And you will no longer participate or do any of the things that you would have done otherwise. But because we don't allow the word of Elohim to penetrate our hearts, which goes back to the seed entering into the good ground, which a man heareth and doeth and understandeth to bring forth that fruit, then that's why we're not bringing forth no fruit. That's why we're not showing forth the meekness and the love and the faith that we see Josiah performing in what we read in 2 Chronicles 34. That's why we're not producing that. That's why I say the fruit of the righteous is a tree of life. What Josiah was producing that would brought life to the people. He was repairing the house of Yahuwah. He's going to look at it again. He caused the people to enter into a covenant with Yahuwah because of the fruits that he brought forth. So he won souls, which shows that he was wise. Back to 2 Chronicles chapter 34. Let's see what else we got. We'll read verse 27 in 2 Chronicles 34, just so you can hear Yahuwah say that he was humble, and that he wept before him, and that even though it mentions that he rent his clothes, he also rented his heart, because he was saddened by what he read, or what he heard, I should say. Make that verse 24. Thus saith Yahuwah, behold, I will bring evil upon this place, and upon the inhabitants thereof, even all the curses that are written in the book, which they have read before the Malach of Yehuda, because they have forsaken me, and have burned incense unto other gods, that they might provoke me to anger with all the works of their hands. Therefore my wrath shall be poured out upon this place, and shall not be quenched. As for the Malach of Yehuda, who sent you to inquire of Yahuwah, so shall you say unto him, thus saith Yahuwah Elohim of Yasharal, concerning the words which thou hast heard, because thy heart was tender. See, his heart was tender. Let's see what the word tender. His heart was tender. This doggone phone, man. Goodness grief. Give me a second. There we go. See, his heart was tender. Let's see what we got for the word tender. Say his heart was tender. That word is rakak. And it means to be weak, to be timid, to be fearful, to be softened, to be soft of treacherous words, or to be weak and also mollified. Let's look at something when it comes to being mollified. Isaiah chapter 1. Isaiah chapter 1. Isaiah 1 and 5. Make it 1 and 4. Ah, a sinful nation, a people laden with iniquity. Now I want you to understand something, right? Make it verse 3. Make it 2. Because I want you to hear what Yah got to say about us. And I really want you to understand this is why we need to make our hearts tender. Because his heart was made tender just from hearing the curses. See, you know the thing is, when we hear these curses now, all we hear these curses for is this: to prove we Israel, and at least on our end, to see where Hamashiach is. But for the most part, most people, our brews, are reading these curses to prove they Israel. Their hearts are not being made soft by it. You know what I'm saying? They ain't even sitting back considering the wrath of Elohim is on your head if you're contrary to this. What do we know Leviticus 26 say? If you walk contrary to him, he will walk contrary to you. Do you think that stopped because you're in America? Because you're in Europe? Because you're in Asia? No. If you continually walk contrary to Yahuwah, he will continually walk contrary to you. That's something that should make your heart tender. It should make it weak. It should make it soft. It should make you fearful of this man's wrath. But instead, see, that's how we know we the people. That's how we know. So that then that curse, that level of indignation that Yahuwah has against unrighteous behavior, it doesn't seek in and permeate your ruach and into your consciousness, into your heart, for you to understand, I need to repent. You know what I'm saying? I think, y'all, that when my homeboy sat me down and that nigga had read that 2868, the first thought that came into my head was, I was going to hell. That was the first thing came into my mind. Boy, you're going to hell. The whole book is true and you're going to hell. Do you know what I'm saying? Because I'm listening to all this stuff and I'm not getting no excitement on we the people. I'm sitting here looking at, boy, you contrary to this whole thing and you've been this way for 28 years. Boy, you going to hell. You know what I'm saying? This is what, and I can only be y'all to even give me a mind to even thinking that fact. I cannot take credit for that. So this was going through my mind. Boy, you going to hell, boy. But we're going to have to do something. Something going to have to be done. You know what I'm saying? I mean, we were riding my homeboy. We were looking at something. He said, what we going to do? I look at this nigga, what you mean what we going to do? I already know what I'm going to do. I know what I got to do. Ain't even know this is not up for discussion. This ain't up for debate. I don't have to deliberate. There's no hesitation. This is what it's got to be. There is no other option. There is no other way. Anything else is completely unacceptable. You know what I'm saying? This is how we have to think. You know what I'm saying? I hope that He give everybody a mind to think this way. This is what I got to do. Who gets lost? You are lost. What gets lost is lost. Because anybody that's lost on the journey to Elohim wasn't worth your time, energy, or presence anyway. If you trying to get to Elohim. Now, if you ain't trying to get to Elohim, it don't matter. It don't matter. It don't really matter. Isaiah 1 and 2. Hear, O Shamahim, and give ear, O earth, for Yahuwah have spoken. I have nourished and brought up children, and they have rebelled against me. The ox know his owner, and the ass his master's crib, but Yasharal doth not know, my people doth not consider. Ah, sinful nation, a people laden with iniquity, a seed of evildoers, children that are corrupters, they have forsaken Yahuwah, they provoked the Kadesh one of Yasharal unto anger, they are gone away backward. Why would you be stricken anymore? Ye will revolt more and more. The whole head is sick, the whole heart faint. From the sole of the feet even unto the head there is no soundness in it, but wounds and bruises and putrefying sores. They have not been closed, neither bound up, neither mollified with ointment. So these wounds, let's look at mollified in this chapter. He said they ain't even been mollified with no ointment. Ain't even been mollified with no ointment. Now we looked at that, he said that meant the salt. It's the same word. They ain't even been soft. These wounds have not been softened. Now let's look at something. Hosea chapter 6 and verse 6. And after that, Luke chapter 2. This time right back into what we were talking about Wednesday, truth be told. Hosea chapter 6 and verse 6 and then Luke chapter 2. Praise Yah for the word. If I don't get to Yehoiakim tonight, Yah willing, I get him on tomorrow. Dang, if I can get there. Hosea 6 and 6. Just consider, just wait. It's your life. But at the end of the day, you're going to do what you want to do. 6 and 5. Make it 6 and 4. O Ephraim, what shall I do unto thee? O Yehuda, what shall I do unto thee? For your goodness is as a morning cloud, and as the early dew it go away. Therefore have I hewed them by the prophets. I have slain them by the words of my mouth, and thy judgments are as the light that go forth. For I desired mercy and not sacrifice, and the knowledge of Elohim more than burnt offerings. See, these are the things, and see, this is how wicked our ancestors were. And now we done swapped it out. See, our ancestors felt like as long as I bring sacrifice and burnt offerings, I'm straight. When Yahuwah said, I wanted the knowledge of Elohim and for you to have mercy, that's what I desired. He told you that in Jeremiah chapter 7, verse 24. I did not tell your forefathers nothing about no sacrifice when I brought them out of Mizraim. He said, take your sacrifices and eat flesh. That's what he told them. I ain't told you nothing about that. I told you obey my voice. That's what I told you. You know what I'm saying? I don't care nothing about that. That was not my number one concern. What do we do now? I keep the Sabbath. I don't eat pork. And you think that making these quote-unquote sacrifices is good, but yet there's no mercy and there's no knowledge of Elohim, which goes back to the weightier matters of the law, which we done dealt with that before, which if you pay attention, we deal with it pretty much. Praise Yah for Yahusha for that every week. Because this man say that the weightier matters of the law is judgment, mercy, faith, and the love of Elohim. So you should know how to discern between good and evil. That's a weightier matter of the law. That's stuff nobody don't like to talk about, because that means you're going to have to. That's what we were talking about the other day about surface level. See, some people like to have surface level relationships, whether it be with family, whether it be with friends, whether it be with people as far as your significant other. You know what I'm saying? Whether you courting or whether you married, they like surface stuff. Don't really want to go. There's no power in nothing surface, because all of that stuff is superficial and it's just nothing. There ain't nothing to it. There's no weight behind that. So that's why people don't like to deal with the weightier matters of the law. When you talking about discerning between good and evil, we got to delve in and pull some stuff out, and you're gonna see stuff about your heart you don't like. See, we don't want to deal with no mercy, because then that shows forth actual attributes of Elohim. To be able to forgive somebody when they done you wrong. To be able to have mercy and compassion on someone who is without, seeking nothing in return. Because I done told you before, if you do something for somebody, I felt all warm inside when I did this. You did that for yourself. You ain't do that for them. You don't read nowhere where Yahuwah felt good for showing mercy and compassion to somebody. He did it because it was the just thing to do. When you are a just individual, you do things because that is what is to be done, not because you seek some type of feeling. You a selfish bastard. You didn't do that for that person. You did that for you. So you didn't really have mercy and compassion on this person. You see people do, I felt so good feeding people. It feels good to help somebody. Why does it feel good? Why should it feel good for doing what you ought to do? It's like nigga talking about it feels good to take care of my kids. And nigga, what, you sound dumb. You're supposed to. So you didn't do that. You did that to be seen, to tell somebody. You wanted somebody to know this, so somebody could tell you how good of a parent you are, how good of a person you are. See, it's easy to be merciful and compassionate on somebody when you've been in their shoes. You don't have to feel anything about it. I feel your pain, so I will assist you. But even if you haven't been in those situations, it's just because you know this is the right thing to do. That's why the just shall live by their faith. This is the right thing to do. Nevertheless. And then he said, you know, and look at verse 7. But they like men have transgressed the covenant. They have dealt treacherously against me. Look what he said. But they like men. Like men. Because we ain't supposed to be thinking like men. We're supposed to be thinking like Elohim. Because Elohim don't transgress his covenant. You want to see how? Look at Exodus chapter 20. Let's see what the law says. See, Elohim don't break his covenant. So if we think like Elohim, guess what we're not going to do? We're not going to break his covenant. Make it Deuteronomy 7. We're not going to break his covenant. Because he's not going to break his covenant. That's why he said, but they like men dealt treacherously. Yahuwah has never dealt treacherously. Never. Let's pull the word for treacherously in Hosea 6 before we go any further. I'm just curious to what it says. So we shall see what it says. And that word, and it's the same word for transgressor, but God faithlessly. No faith. They dealt without faith. They dealt without faith, which goes back to what we were talking about in Romans 14. Anything that is not of faith is a sin. We cannot continue to be transgressors. We cannot continue to offend by being faithless. Because that's what he's pretty much telling us in Hosea chapter 1. And that's why our wounds can't be modified with ointment or modified or softened by the Ruach HaKodesh, because our hearts are too hard. And we'll look at that in a moment. Praise the Lamb. Deuteronomy chapter 7. 7 and 9. 7 and 9. Make it 7 and 8. Why not? 7 and 6. For thou art a Kadesh people under Yahuwah thy Elohim. Yahuwah thy Elohim have chosen thee to be a special people unto himself above all people that are upon the face of the earth. The reason why I want to mention this here, because we read a little bit about the people getting immersed and the souls being saved that day. And if this man has chosen you to be immersed into the death of his son, it's for you to be a special people above all people. You ain't got no business living like a man. You ain't got no business thinking like a man. And you ain't got no business moving like one. You need to be moving like Elohim. You need to be living like Elohim. You need to be thinking like Elohim. Because he's chosen you to be a special people. That's why he say make your election sure. Your forefathers got that same immersion. He chose them to be a special people. They did not make that call, that choosing, that election sure, because they went after their own heart and their own mind. Now, it ain't no different than you coming up out that water. Ain't no different than Mashiach them going through that Red Sea. Make your election sure. Make sure that this man has not labored in vain by choosing you the son that you're going to end up damning yourself by, because you didn't really want that in the first place. You need to consider that. That man loved you because that man said he that believe in the mercy to be saved. If he open up your heart of faith, he's choosing you so you can be saved. Don't be stupid. Yahuwah did not set his love upon you, nor choose you, because you were more in number than any people, for you were the fewest of all people. That's why the master said what he said. You have not chosen me, I have chosen you. And of course he was talking about the apostles directly, but you need to sit back and understand that you did not choose him. You did not learn of him. You know what I'm saying? Well, you didn't manifest, you didn't come find him, he found you. You got to remember that. Maybe if we remember that, we wouldn't be so quick to go be evil. But because Yahuwah loved you, and because he would keep the oath which he sworn unto your fathers, have Yahuwah brought you out with a mighty hand, and redeemed you out of the house of bondmen, from the hand of Pharaoh, Malach of Mizraim. Know therefore that Yahuwah the Elohim, he is Elohim, the faithful Elohim, which keep covenant and mercy with them that love him, and keep his commandments to 1,000 generations. He keeps his covenant. Men break it. So when you see that you must be born again, and who is he that overcome the world but he that believe that Yahusha is the son of Elohim? This is the victory, even our faith, is because you transition from being a man to being a son or daughter of the living Elohim, and therefore you have taken on his mind, and therefore you don't think like a man anymore, because men transgress covenants. Why? Because the carnal mind is enmity against the Torah Elohim. It is not subject to it, neither indeed can be. But the spiritual mind is life and shalom, meaning you have to swap out that mind and become as Elohim. He said it's written in your Torah, it says ye are gods. Consider what I was going to go to. 2 Corinthians chapter 3. Just consider. That's all I can say. Just consider. 3 and 6. Actually 3 and 3. My apologies. I'll start at verse 1 and work my way down. Do we begin again to commend ourselves, or need we, as some others, epistles of commendation to you, or letters of commendation from you? Ye are our epistle, written in our hearts, known and read of all men. For as much as you are manifestly declared to be the epistle of Mashiach, ministered by us, written not with ink, but with the Ruach of the living Elohim, not in tables of stone, but in fleshly tables of the heart. And fleshly, we ain't got to go no further. And fleshly tables of the heart. That's where it needs to be written at, because you would have made your heart tender. And then that Ruach HaKadosh can be that mollifying ointment, or the what will soften your heart. But your heart cannot be softened until you humble yourself unto the mighty Elohim. And that's what we don't be wanting to do. And this is what you see Josiah manifesting one of the fruits of the Ruach, because he humbled himself. He said clearly, you made your heart tender before me. Let's go back to 2 Chronicles 34. I pray that everybody understand fully what we discussing at their present time. I hope that y'all that you do. 34 and 27 yet again. Because thy heart was tender, and thou did humble thyself before Elohim. Listen what he said. When thou heard his words against this place, and against the inhabitants thereof, and humbled thyself before me, and did rend thy clothes, and weep before me, I have even heard thee also, saith Yahuwah. Behold, I will gather thee to thy fathers, and thou shalt be gathered to thy grave in shalom. Neither shall thy eyes see all the evil that I will bring upon this place and upon the inhabitants of the same. So they brought the king word again. Now look at what he did here in verse 30. I'm going to just keep on going. And then the king sent and gathered together all the elders of Yehuda and Jerusalem. And the king went up into the house of Yahuwah, and all the men of Yehuda and all the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and the priests and the Levites and all the people great and small. And he read in all their ears all the words of the book of the covenant that was found in the house of Yahuwah. And the Malach stood in his place and made a covenant before Yahuwah to walk after Yahuwah, to keep his commandments and his testimonies and his statutes with all his heart and with all his soul, to perform the words of the covenant which were written in this book. And he caused all that were present in Jerusalem and Benjamin to stand to it. And the inhabitants of Jerusalem did according to the covenant of Elohim, the Elohim of their fathers. So he not only did this here, but he came and he brought it forth. Let's go back to Galatians chapter 5. He came forth and brought this to cause the people to stand to this. So because of the fruits that we've seen him manifested, you see him winning souls. Because he caused these men to stand to the covenant so their souls could be preserved. Got to pay attention. You got to look at the stuff be right in our face. All we got to do is look at it and read it with understanding. So when you see this here with that, we see him with love, we see him with faith, we see him with meekness, but we also see him with goodness and even the long suffering. Because he caused these people to stand to this covenant. Let's finish this one here. Look at chapter 35. If we got anything in chapter 35 we can use. Well, you know, he kept the Passover, and that would be the gentleness and the goodness. But let's read Proverbs 11 and 30 one more time, and let's deal with that before we transition to the second half of what we need to deal with in Proverbs, because we're getting close to 10:30. But you know, the fruit of the righteous is a tree of life. So he manifested these fruits to bring forth life. When we could look at Mashiach, let's look at Mashiach showing faith and love and mercy and any of these things, and let's see him manifesting these fruits himself. What's the first place we want to go? John chapter 8. Let's go there and look at a little bit of mercy. Let's look at that. Let's go over here and look at a little bit of mercy straight from the master. Let's swing around here for that. 8 and 4. They say unto him, Master, this woman was taken in adultery in the very act. Now Moses in the Torah commanded us that such should be stoned. What say thou? This they said, tempting him, that they may have to accuse him. But Yahusha stooped down with his fingers and wrote on the ground as though he heard them not. So when they continued asking him, he lifted up himself and said unto them, He that is without sin among you, let him first cast a stone at her. And again he stooped down and wrote on the ground, and they which heard it, being convicted by their own conscience, went out one by one, beginning at the eldest even unto the last. And Yahusha was left alone, and the woman standing in the midst. And when Yahusha had lifted up himself and saw none but the woman, he said unto her, Woman, where are thine accusers? Have no man condemned thee? She said, No man, Master. And Yahusha said unto her, Neither do I condemn thee. Go and sin no more. The master showed this woman goodness in this instance because he forgave her sin. Going to get to what y'all should already know from Psalms 130. If he was to mark iniquity, who shall stand? But forgiveness is with him, that he may be feared or he may be respected. He looked upon that woman and he had mercy on her, because he said that's what he desired, mercy more than sacrifice, and the knowledge of Elohim more than burnt offerings. So he turned around and he showed goodness to this woman, manifesting the fruits of Elohim. But let's continue on. Let's look at another place where he did so. Maybe let's see Luke chapter 18 maybe. Let's look at Luke chapter 18 if you don't mind. Let's deal with that. Hello? Hello? Luke 18 is not the one. We'll use Luke 18 right here in verse 35 though. We'll see a little bit of gentleness and goodness in the same token. And it came to pass, as he was come nigh unto Jericho, a certain blind man sat by the wayside begging. And he heard the multitude pass by, and he asked what it meant. And they told him that Yahusha of Nazareth passed by. And he cried, saying, Yahusha, thou son of David, have mercy on me. And when they which went before rebuked him, that he should hold his shalom, but he cried so much the more, thou son of David, have mercy on me. Yahusha stood and commanded him to be brought unto him. And when he come near, he asked him, saying, what wilt thou that I shall do unto thee? And he said, Master, that I may receive my sight. And Yahusha said unto him, receive thy sight, thy faith hath saved thee. And immediately he received his sight and followed him, esteeming Elohim and all the people. And when they saw it, gave praise to Elohim. Let's look at another instance where he showed joy. Let's go to Matthew chapter 26. And let's look at him show forth the joy of Elohim. Even in the midst of intense sorrow on his part. Matthew chapter 26. Dang, I'm looking right at it. Where is it at? I don't know I'm looking right at it. Oh, there it is. Matthew chapter 26 and verse 26. This is also a manifestation in Matthew 26 and 26 of the faith and the love of Elohim. And then also in this account, we'll look at the temperance of Elohim. And as they were eating, Yahusha took bread and blessed it and brake it and gave it to the disciples and said, take, eat, this is my body. And he took the cup and gave thanks and gave it to them, saying, drink ye all of it, for this is my blood of the New Testament, which is shed for many for the remission of sins. But I say unto you, I will not drink henceforth of this fruit of the vine until that day when I drink it new with you in my Father's kingdom. Again, when he tells them, just in this instant where he say, I won't drink with you till I drink it new, he showed the manifestation of the faith, because he's showing faith that the Father will resurrect him from the dead, that he will not suffer his Kadesh one to see corruption. And then along that the love he had for his Father, because he kept his commandments. He said, I abide in my Father's love. So what he said in John chapter 15. He abided in that love because he loved his Father by obeying him. But not only just by obeying the commandments, but the obedience of faith to do and to go where, when, and how he told him to go. Knowing that he would receive the reward of which he was going to get. Which is shows how the fruit of the righteous is a tree of life. Because Hamashiach is that tree that produces the fruit which pertains to life. And he won souls. Therefore, that made him wise. We can see all he plays in this book where he won souls. And we do have to read an instance where he won souls, or we would be just totally incomplete on that matter. But he won souls. That is the objective, to win souls. Not just to win souls, just to have a whole bunch of people listen to you preach. Not just to say you got a whole bunch of people in your congregation. To win souls to Yah. The objective is to always win souls to Yah. When an individual go to thinking it's about them, then there's a problem. The objective is to get people to Yah. That's it. That's it. That's who you winning them to. Or you think you winning them to yourself? Let's see the word for win real quick, since I keep mentioning it. The word is lakak. And it is to take, to fetch, to lay hold of, to seize, to receive. Hold on. to marry, to take a wife, to snatch. To take in the hand, or to fetch, or to lead, or conduct, or to capture, or to seize. Now I was thinking about something about snatching a wife when I read that just then. And I probably worked my way around that to it if you will see fit. And when they had sung a hymn, they went out into the Mount of Olives. Now when you sing a hymn, when you sing to Yah, you singing for joy. It says they sung a hymn on their way out there. On their way to the Mount of Olives. This man know he finna get ready to die. We've seen him show gentleness. We've seen him show goodness. We've seen him show meekness. Even long suffering with the woman who commits sin. We've seen him show that. We've seen the love. We've seen the faith. We even see shalom along with the joy. Now let's look at self-control going further down in this chapter. Verse 50. Verse 47 is fine. And while he yet spake, lo, Judas, one of the 12, came, and with him a great multitude, with swords and staves from the chief priests and elders of the people. Now he that betrayed him gave them a sign, saying, Whomsoever I shall kiss, the same as he, hold him fast. And forthwith he came to Yahusha and said, Hail, Master, and kissed him. Yahusha said unto him, Friend, wherefore art thou come? Then came they and laid hands on Yahusha and took him. And behold, one of them which were with Yahusha stretched out his hand and drew his sword and struck a servant of the high priest and smote off his ear. Then said Yahusha unto him, Put up again thy sword into his place, for all they that take the sword shall perish with the sword. Think thou that I cannot pray to my Abba, and he shall presently give me more than 12 legions of Malachim? But how then shall the scriptures be fulfilled that it thus must be? Even the same in the book of John, where he say, my kingdom is not of this world. If it was, my servants would fight. Which is self-control. Because he just said, I could pray to my Abba right now, get 12 legions of Malachim, and he gonna hearken. But I gotta show self-control. Even when he say, Abba, if it be possible, let this cup pass, but not my will be done, but thy will be done. That's self-control. Even when he healed the man in Mark chapter 3 with the withered hand and the people, and he looked at the people angry. He was angry with these people because their hearts were hard because of unbelief. He still manifested self-control. When the disciples said, hey man, let's bring fire down on them from Elijah because they don't do this here. And he said, you don't know what manner of ruach you are. Self-control. Self-control. Let's look and see how he won some souls. John chapter 8 yet again. Verse 28. And after that, John chapter 12. I've already referenced it, but we'll read it off the page on general principle. Also, when you look at the demonstration of love and faith, him saying, hey, I lay my life down on my own volition. No man take it from me. I lay it down on myself. Or what about John chapter 12, verse 49? My Father give me a commandment, what I should say and what I should speak. Or what about John 7 and 16 when he said, hey, man, he that speaketh of himself seeketh his own esteem, but he that seeketh the esteem of him that sent him, the same is true, and there's no unrighteousness in him. Meekness. All of these things are the attributes of the word being in this man and him dying to the word to be able to manifest that fruit. You can't manifest that fruit while you still living. You won't be able to accomplish that. It's a guaranteed fact. We'll read a couple verses. That one we referenced already and another one we read the other day, because it needs to be hammered home and beat into your head so your soul can be saved. Then said Yahusha unto them, when you have lifted up the Son of Man, then shall you know that I am he, and that I do nothing of myself. There's humility again, or meekness again. But as my Abba have taught me, I speak these things. And there goes the faith again, and the love again. And he that sent me is with me. The Abba has not left me alone, for I do always those things that please him. And as he spake these words, many believed on him. Then said Yahusha to those Yahudim which believed on him, if you continue in my word, then you are my disciples indeed, and you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. And you'll be free from sin at that point, which means he would have won a soul, or take, or snatched, or seized them from the grips of death. Hold on. Luke chapter 15. Before we read John chapter 12. Luke chapter 15 and verse 1. Luke 15 and 1. Then drew near unto him all the publicans and sinners for to hear him. And the Pharisees and scribes murmured, saying, this man receives sinners and eat with them. And he spake this parable unto them, saying, what man of you, having 100 sheep, if he lose one of them, doth not leave the 99 in the wilderness, and go after that which is lost until he find it? And when he had found it, he lay it on his shoulders, rejoicing. And when he come home, he called together his friends and neighbors, saying unto them, rejoice with me, for I found my sheep which was lost. I say unto you that likewise joy shall be in Shamahim over one sinner that repent, more than over 99 just persons which need no repentance. Either that what woman having 10 pieces of silver, if she lose one piece, doth not light a candle, and sweep the house, and seek diligently till she find it. And when she hath found it, she call her friends and her neighbors together, saying, rejoice with me, for I found the piece which I had lost. Likewise I say unto you, there is joy in the presence of the Malachim or Elohim over one sinner that repent. See, the thing I would think about snatching a wife, and I'm not going to deal with it tonight, was when they snatched wives in the book of Judges. When he told them they had to snatch a wife after, we know what Benjamin did. They were dumpster diving, and there was a major civil war. And I had expressed this to somebody already, so I guess I'll tell all of y'all. Eventually, probably after we get done with these kings, as we bridge, before we go into that law, because I ain't gonna rush y'all straight into that. Because 9 times out of 10, I don't really want to start dealing with that law till y'all willing after Tabernacles. I would advise every last one of you to take notes every time we come on, because we're going to go through the entire law, every ordinance, every statute, every commandment, so you know them and understand them and see which ones relate to Mashiach, which ones do you need to continue doing, and which ones you do not. Because at the end of that, you will have no excuse for not being knowledgeable in the law. If you're not knowledgeable in the law, that will be your fault. That will squarely and solely rest at your feet. But they had swore an oath that they wouldn't give any women to Benjamin. So Benjamin had to go out and snatch and seize a wife. And you have to realize that Yahusha was coming through to win a soul, or to win his wife, to get someone to marry. And when we look at that, that's what Josiah was doing, was snatching a wife, because you're entering into a covenant with Yahuwah. You know what I'm saying? A marriage covenant with Yahuwah. You're joining yourself to him to be his wife. He told you that I am your husband in Isaiah the 54th chapter. So I am married unto you, he told you in Jeremiah. So you got to look at that. That's what they're doing. That's why the book says that he that findeth a wife findeth a good thing, and will find the favor of Yahuwah. Yahusha found his wife. He found the favor. What was the favor? The resurrection of the dead. So he could receive the gift of the Ruach HaKodesh to expand and to give unto men, or to expend, I should say, unto men. You have to consider that. You have to consider that. You know what I'm saying? There are blessings in doing things the right way, if you are right. Because see, you do find a good thing and you get married. But if you're a sinner, it don't make no difference. I'm talking about for men. It doesn't make no difference. If you wicked, it doesn't make no difference. The favor of y'all is not coming your way, because you're not a just individual. But if you're a just individual, then the favor of Yah will come your way. Because he's going to do what he did for his son. He's going to keep his covenant. He's going to keep his word. We already seen that. That's why we looked at men transgress the covenant. Elohim do not. Become Elohim, you won't transgress the covenant. You wonder why people can't keep the covenant? Because you're steady thinking like a man. You're going by your infirmities of your flesh. You're not showing forth wisdom. So therefore you can't win your own soul, much less win another. Nevertheless, John chapter 12, verse 23. and we will transition. Oh yeah, I got to hit that tree of life. My apologies. Got to do that. So after John chapter 12, verse 23, Genesis chapter 2, then Isaiah 51, Revelation chapter 2, then Revelation 22, and all that good old stuff. I will repeat those again though. John 12 and 23. It would help if I was in John chapter 12 and not John 13, not 14 now, wouldn't it? And Yahusha answered, saying, the hour is come that the Son of Man should be esteemed. Truly, truly, I say unto you, except a corn of wheat fall into the ground and die, it abide alone. But if it die, it bring forth much fruit. If you go ahead and die, you'll bring forth the fruit. You got to go ahead and die to bring forth the fruit. You got to do it to bring forth the fruit. So let's sit back and let's go on here now. And let's look at Genesis chapter 2. Actually, yeah, Genesis 2 is good. Genesis 3, actually. 3 and 22. Genesis 3 and 22. And Yahuwah Elohim said, behold, the man is become as one of us, to know good and evil. And now lest he put forth his hand and take also of the tree of life and eat and live forever. Therefore Yahuwah Elohim sent him forth from the Garden of Eden to till the ground from whence he was taken. So he drove out the man and placed at the east of the Garden of Eden cherubims and a flaming sword which turned every way to keep the way of the tree of life. He put a good old sword to keep the way of the tree of life. So we look at this flaming sword. And the word is lahat, and that's a flame of a Malachim sword. You should know what way is, and that is Darak. And he said that sword turned every way. So when we look at every way, that is hafak, and it's to transform oneself, or to turn this way and that, to turn every way, to turn on someone, to be overturned, overthrown, things of that nature, or to change or to transform. But we're going to look at keep, because you should know way. Way is the rock, and that's the way to the highest that covers sins. But when we look at keep, it's to guard, to observe, or to give heed, or to keep charge of. It's shamar, to protect. So what was actually being protected of the way of the tree of life? Because if the way of the tree of life is the way to the highest that covers sins, and the tree of life is what would allow one to be, if they eat from it, they'll live forever. Then we have to consider something of what was being kept back. 1 Peter chapter 1, verse 5. And after that, Matthew chapter 15. We got to look at what was being kept back. 1 and 3. I ain't heard nothing. I work my way around. I am a little high. Baruch be Elohim and Abba of our Master Yahusha HaMashiach, which according to his abundant mercy have begotten us again into a lively hope by the resurrection of Yahusha HaMashiach from the dead, to an inheritance incorruptible, undefiled, that fade not away, reserved in Shamahim for you. And that's the thing we have to sit back and look at. That inheritance that they had was corruptible, and it would pass away. That inheritance in Garden of Eden was corruptible. There was nothing in there that was eternal. That's the first thing. Besides even looking at Adam and Eve, everything in there was natural. There was nothing eternal there. Who are kept by the power of Elohim through faith unto salvation, ready to be revealed in the last time. Drop down to verse 9. Receiving the end of your faith, even salvation of your souls, of which salvation the prophets have inquired and searched diligently, who prophesied of the favor that should come unto you, searching what manner of time the Ruach of Mashiach which was in them did signify, when it testified beforehand the sufferings of Mashiach and the esteem that should follow, unto whom it was revealed that not unto themselves, But unto us they did minister the things which are now reported unto you by them that have preached the Besorah unto you with the Ruach HaKodesh sent down from Shamahim, which the things the Malachim desire to look into. So that favor that was in the garden was not a service unto them, but a manifestation of a prophesying of the favor that would come unto us later. So these flaming sword, these Malachim, they have to keep the way, they have to protect it, because it's not known for man to know the way to get to this tree. You can't know the way to get there yet. You can't get there yet, because if you get there, you're going to live forever. John chapter 15. I did not say John chapter 15 the first time, because I'm thinking about something else. Think about John 14. I said something else. Can't remember what it was. Oh, Matthew 15 is what I said. Praise the Lamb. And then John chapter 14. Matthew chapter 15. Matthew chapter 15. I'm in the wrong spot. It's Matthew 13. My apologies. and 11. He answered and said unto them, because it is given unto you to know the mysteries of the kingdom of Shamahim, but to them it is not given. For whosoever hath, to him shall be given, and he shall have more abundance. But whosoever hath not, from him shall be taken away even that he hath. Therefore I speak to them in parables, because they seeing see not, and hearing they hear not, neither do they understand. And in them is fulfilled the prophecy of Isaiah, which saith, by hearing you shall hear, and shall not understand, and seeing you shall see, and shall not perceive. For this people's heart is waxed gross, and their ears are dull of hearing, and their eyes they have closed, lest at any time they should see with their eyes, and hear with their ears, and should understand with their heart, and should be converted, and I should heal them. But Baruch are your eyes, for they see, and your ears, for they hear. For truly I say unto you that many prophets and righteous men have desired to see the things which ye see, and have not seen them, and to hear those things which you hear, and have not heard them. Praise y'all. Come over here to John chapter 14, and then Matthew chapter 28. Praise the Lamb. Got some fresh cook up right there. This it came just right there. I got some fresh cook up for that when we sit back and we look at that. John chapter 14, verse 5. John chapter 14 and verse 5. Thomas saith unto him, Master, we know not whither thou go, and how can we know the way? Yahusha saith unto him, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man come unto the Father but by me. If you had known me, you should have known my Abba also, and from henceforth you know him and have seen him. Philip saith unto him, Master, show us the Father, and it sufficeth us. Yahusha saith unto him, I have been so long time with you, yet thou hast not known me, Philip. He that hath seen me hath seen the Father, and how say thou then, show us the Father? Believe thou not that I am in the Father, and the Father in me? The words that I speak unto you, I speak not of myself, but the Father that dwell in me, he do the works. Believe me that I am in the Father, and the Father in me, or else believe me for the very work's sake. That's a strong word from the Master right there. He said, if you ain't going to believe me on the word, you should believe me on my fruit. If you didn't believe me on the fruit of my words, then you should believe me on the fruit of my actions, which goes that the fruit of the righteous is a tree of life, and he that wins souls is wise. But the key thing what we're looking at, right, is that he put a flaming sword to guard the tree of life. Put some Malachims there to guard it on every way. Every way. Now watch this here. John chapter 18. Watch this right here, though. We're going to get to Matthew 28 in a second. It might be Luke 24. But watch this here. This is what just came right here. John chapter 18, right? Let me make sure John 18 what I need. Yeah, it is. John chapter 18 and verse 1. We got to work it now. Let's watch what we gonna do. Well, let's watch how y'all work this here so we can get some understanding. We ain't gonna get to Jehoiakim tonight. I'm not even gonna tell you that bold-faced lie. We will get to Jehoiakim, y'all will, on the morrow, and Kaniah on the morrow. And we'll deal with the flip side of that verse 31 in Proverbs chapter 11. I thought I could half and half it, but I could not. So when Yahusha had spoken these words, he went forth with his disciples over the brook Cedron, where was a garden, into the which he entered and his disciples. And Judas also, which betrayed him, knew the place, for Yahusha oft times resorted thither with his disciples. Judas then, having received a band of men and officers from the chief priests and Pharisees, come thither with lanterns and torches and weapons. Yahusha, therefore, knowing all things that should come upon him, went forth and said unto him, Whom seek ye? There it is. I have been forgetting what that verse is. That John chapter 18, verse 10, where it say pt2 cut that nigga off. Nevertheless. Then answered him Yahusha Nazareth. Yahusha saith unto him, I am he. And Judas, which betrayed him, stood with him. So notice that they're in a garden. In a garden. In a garden. In a garden. Let's go over here to Matthew chapter 26, if I'm not mistaken. It might be 27. Now they sinned, so he had to guard the way. He had to guard the way. Had to guard the way of the tree of life. He had to guard it. Keep in mind what we read in Luke chapter 12. Keep that in mind. Let me make sure though. Matthew chapter 27. Where is the verse? There it is, about verse 33. Hold on for a second though. Go to Matthew 27 and 33. See, when we turn around and we look at what Yahusha did and all the things that I meant to say Josiah, what Josiah did, knowing that his name means Yahuwah heals, and through his softness he was able to come through and heal the people to bring them to the covenant. And now we turn it around and seeing that Yahusha will be the one to humble us, to heal us, to bring us to the covenant. Him doing that through the humbling of his death. Look at Matthew chapter 27 and verse 33. It says, And when they were come unto a place called Golgotha, that is to say, a place of a skull, they gave him vinegar to drink, mingled with gall. And when he had tasted thereof, he would not drink. And they crucified him and parted his garments, casting lots that it might be fulfilled, which was spoken by the prophet. And they parted my garments among them, and upon my vesture they did cast lots. And sitting down, they watched him there, and set up over his head his accusation written, This is Yahusha, Malik of the Yahudim. So now we're seeing that Hamashiach is being crucified and being killed. The people are committed to sin, and he is becoming sin. But he's going to become sin to remove the block so that you can have right to the tree of life. Let's see how. Hold on before I go to Matthew 28. John chapter 16 and 30. And then we'll come right back to Matthew chapter 27. John chapter 16 and 30. Praise y'all for the word. Make it 16 and 29. You know what? Make it 25. Ain't gonna hurt nothing. These things have I spoken unto you in Proverbs, but the time come when I shall no more speak unto you in Proverbs, but I will show you plainly of the Father. That goes into Proverbs chapter 8 when he say that I'll speak plainly, that my words are plain to them that have understanding. But for the Father himself love you, because you love me, and have believed that I come out from Elohim. I come forth from the Father, and I'm come into the world again. I leave the world and go to the Father. His disciples said unto him, Lo, now speak thou plainly, and speak no proverb, no dark saying, keeping it plain. Now we are sure that thou know all things, and need not that any man should ask thee. By this we believe that thou come forth from Elohim. Yahusha answered them, Do you now believe? Behold, the hour come, yea, is now come, that ye shall be scattered, every man to his own. You shall leave me alone, yet I am not alone, because the Father is with me. These things have I spoken unto you, that in me you might have shalom. In the world you have tribulation, but be of good cheer. I have overcome the world. Now let's go back to Matthew chapter 27. Remember now, he just said he done overcame the world. Let's go back to Matthew 27. Matthew 27. 57. And when the even was come, there came a rich man of Arithmia named Joseph, who also himself was Yahusha's disciple. He went to Pilate and begged the body of Yahusha. Then Pilate commanded the body to be delivered. And when Joseph had taken the body, he wrapped it in a clean linen cloth, and he laid it in his own new tomb, which he had hewn out in the rock. And he rolled a great stone to the door of the sepulchre and departed. And there was Mary Magdalene and the other Mary sitting over against the sepulchre. Now, knowing that Hamashiach is the seed and he's being put into the sepulchre, and that we know that he's died, he's got to be able to do this to bring forth much fruit, or to sprout forth this tree. When we come back to Matthew chapter 28, we will see that this is the fulfilling of the, he put a flaming sword to keep the way of the tree of life in Genesis. And then when we look at the resurrection of Mashiach, we're going to see a Malachim that was there to protect the sepulchre or the tree of life. And he removes that sword and allows access that we might have right to the tree of life. And how we'll read in Revelation, I say you overcome, you have right to it. Because remember, he said to keep or to guard or to observe, and he set a Malachim to do it. And when these people come to the grave, when the apostles and the women come to the grave, there's a Malachim there guarding the tree of life, which is Yahusha. But this time he allows them to enter into it, because he said to keep the way of the tree of life. The way is the rock, or the way to the highest that covers sins. The master told you in John chapter 6 that no man can come to the Father except but by him. He told you in John chapter 8 that everyone who has heard of the Father come unto him. No man can get to the Father but by him. So now the obstacle to get you to be able to have eternal life has been removed, because now from his resurrection, that's why we read 1 Peter chapter 1, he's begotten us to a lively hope by the resurrection of the dead of Yahushua HaMashiach, so that you can have an inheritance uncorruptible and undefiled. We haven't read Isaiah 51 yet, but we'll get there to hammer that home. Matthew 28 and 1. In the end of the Shabbat, as it began to dawn toward the first day of the week, came Mary Magdalene and the other Mary to see the sepulchre. And behold, there was a great earthquake, for the Malachim of Yahuwah descended from Shamahim, and came and rolled back the stone from the door and sat upon it. And his countenance was like lightning, and his raiment was white as snow. And for fear of him the keepers did shake, and became as dead men. And the Malachim answered and said unto the women, Fear ye not, for I know that you seek Yahusha, which was crucified. He is not here, for he is risen. And he said, Come see the place where the master lay, and go quickly and tell his disciples that he is risen from the dead. And behold, he go before you into Galilee. There shall you see him. Lo, I have told you. Let's look at what it says in Mark with it. I just like how he put that. I done told you. Don't be come around here acting like you don't know what's going on. I done told you. 16 and 1. And when the Shabbat was past, Mary Magdalene and Mary, the mother of James, and Salome had brought sweet spices, that they may come and anoint him. And very early in the morning, the first day of the week, they came into the sepulchre at the rising of the sun. And they said among themselves, Who shall roll us away the stone from the door of the sepulchre? And when they looked, they saw that the stone was rolled away, and it was very great. And entering to the sepulchre, they saw a young man sitting on the right side, clothed in a long white garment, and they were affrighted. And he saith unto them, Be not affrighted, you seek Yahushua of Nazareth, which was crucified. He is risen, he is not here. Behold the place where they laid him. But go your way and tell his disciples and Peter that he go before you into Galilee. There shall you see him, as he said unto you. And when they went out quickly and fled from the sepulchre, they were trembled and were amazed, neither said anything to any man, for they were afraid. Now we know Luke 24 say the same thing. Let's go to John chapter 20. Because easily these Malachim could have stopped them from getting in, but he did not stop them from getting in. He allowed them to enter therein, because the way of the tree of life has been removed. because the fruit of the righteous is a tree of life, and that fruit is him being resurrected from the dead. We'll look at Colossians chapter 1 to back it up in a minute. So therefore that fruit is being manifested so souls can be won, or that he can marry his wife, or snatch or seize or deliver those who are chosen to be saved. John chapter 20 and verse 1. The first day of the week come Mary Magdalene early, when it was yet dark, unto the sepulchre, and see the stone take away from the sepulchre. Then she run and come to Simon Peter and to the other disciple whom Yahusha loved, and said unto them, They have taken away the master out of the sepulchre, we know not where they have laid him. Peter therefore went forth, and that other disciple came to the sepulchre. So they ran both together, and the other disciple did outrun Peter, and came first to the sepulchre. And stooping down, looking in, saw where the linen clothes lying, yet went he not in. Then coming Simon Peter following him, and went into the sepulchre, and see the linen clothes lie, and the napkin that was about his head, not lying with the linen clothes, but wrapped together in a place by itself. Then went in also that other disciple, which came first to the sepulchre, and he saw and believed. For as yet they knew not that the scripture that he must rise again from the dead. So if he's that tree offshooting, and of course in other places, we lodging under his branches for shadow and all of these things. And Daniel chapter 4, cut the tree down, believe the root, and the tree grow back up. That's about Daniel 4 and 27, where that pop off at. We see this Malachim is not stopping them, but actually invited them into this grave, which was in this garden, which is representative of that flaming sword of those Malachim being removed to no longer guard the way of the tree of life, because now you can have access to it. That's why he say those that trust in Yahuwah will be as that tree by a river who overshoot the roots, which take us back to the garden. Which if you go read Ezekiel 47, and we're going to look at the offshoot where Revelation talk about it, Ezekiel tells you the same thing. And then it says that tree and the leaves that it gives is for the healing of the nations. And when we look at it, Yahusha was for the healing of the nations. Nevertheless, I had something in my head. Let's swing to Isaiah 51. I had something else, but it wasn't Isaiah 51, I can tell you that. Isaiah 51 and 3. For Yahuwah shall comfort Zion, he will comfort all her waste places. He will make her wildernesses like Eden, her desert like the garden of Yahuwah. Joy and gladness shall be found therein, thanksgiving and the voice of melody. Hearken unto me, my people, and give ear unto me, O my nation, for a Torah shall proceed from me, and I will make my judgment to rest for a light to the people. My righteousness is near, my salvation is gone forth, my arm shall judge the people, the isle shall wait upon me, and on my arm shall they trust. So if you know that he's telling you that this is where the nations come in, it's for the healing of the nations, where you got to peep the game. But he said he'll make her wilderness like Eden. He'll make her wilderness like Eden. Let's look at something. I talked about this last week and I didn't get it. Isaiah 44 and 26. He said that confirm the word of his servant and perform the counsel of his messengers, that say to Jerusalem, thou shalt be inhabited, and to the cities of Yehuda you shall be built, and I will raise up the decayed places thereof, that saith to the deep, be dry, and I will dry up the rivers. Keep that in mind when he saith to the deep, be dry, and he'll dry up the rivers. Let's look in the book of Zechariah, so you can see what this man prophesied of these cities being rebuilt. Because the fruit of the righteous is a tree of life. He that wins souls is wise. So we seen Josiah do it. We seen Hamashiach do it. And now we seeing the byproduct, because where that tree of life resides. And that's the place that we need to be. That every last one of us should be laboring to be. Of which the only reason why you should be holding on to the faith is the only reason why I preach the word. You know what I'm saying? Is that this man's kingdom might be proclaimed, that a man might hear it, consider it, and want to dwell there. And now I remember where it was that I wanted. Let me show. I think it's Zechariah chapter 3. I think Zechariah chapter 3 got what I desired. It might be chapter 8. Yes, chapter 8. Yep, Zechariah chapter 8. 8 and 1. Listen to it for yourself, and let these words rest in your heart. Again, the word of Yahuwah of hosts came to me, saying, Thus saith Yahuwah of hosts, I was jealous for Zion with great jealousy, and I was jealous for her with great fury. Thus saith Yahuwah, I am returned unto Zion, and will dwell in the midst of Jerusalem. And Jerusalem shall be called a city of truth, and the mountain of Yahuwah of hosts, the Kadesh mountain. Remember, he said he'll dwell in the midst of Jerusalem. Keep that in your mind, along with him saying he going to dry up these rivers in the deep. Thus saith Yahuwah of hosts, there shall yet old men and old women dwell in the streets of Jerusalem, every man with his staff in his hand for very age. And the streets of the city shall be full of boys and girls playing in the streets thereof. Thus saith Yahuwah of hosts, if it be marvelous in the eyes of the remnant of his people, and these days should it be also be marvelous in my eyes, saith Yahuwah of hosts. Thus saith Yahuwah of hosts, behold, I will save my people from the east country, from the west country, and I will bring them, and they shall dwell in the midst of Jerusalem, and they shall be my people, and I will be their Elohim in truth and in righteousness. Thus saith Yahuwah of hosts, let your hands be strong, ye that hear in these days these words by the mouth of the prophets, which were in the day that the foundation of Yahuwah of hosts was of the house of Yahuwah of hosts was laid, that the temple might be built. For before these days there was no hire for man, nor for any beast, neither was there any shalom to him that went out or came in because of the affliction. I said all men, every one against his neighbor, but now I will not be unto you as a residue of this people as in the former days, saith Yahuwah of hosts. For the seed shall be prosperous, the vine shall give her fruit, the ground shall give her increase, and the Shamahim give her their due, and I will cause the remnant of this people to possess all things. Now, you heard this man say it would be marvelous in his eyes for you to come back into this place and dwell there. He said, if it's marvelous to you, you don't think it would be marvelous to me. And then he said, I will dwell in the midst of you. I will dwell in the midst of you. After I rebuild this place, he said, I make your vine prosperous. He said, I cause the ground to give a fruit. You just read where he caused the ground to give a fruit. He said, I caused the Shamahim to give their due. You know, he gave Shamahim gave their due on Pentecost with the giving of the Ruach HaKodesh, so that you could possess all things, because that was Hamashiach's whole desire and objective, was for you to possess all the things that Elohim had to give you. It's on you if you desire that, but the only reason why you can be able to possess all things that you lost in the garden because of the sin of Adam is because there was a man whose fruit was righteous, and therefore it was a tree of life. And therefore he was able to win souls, so that this man could make this proclamation, so that you could return to this place and rejoice, and that you could sing hallelujah of hosts, for Yahuwah is good and his mercy endures forever. So you could say, let the people who hold the truth enter into the gates of the city, because this man told you that this city will be called a city of truth, and that the people who dwell there will dwell there in truth and righteousness, which means in faith and what's right, which means ruach and in truth, because these are the people that Elohim seek to worship him. This is what Josiah did. This is what Yahusha did. And that's what anybody who sincerely is sent by Yahuwah to preach the word would be doing. And that's winning souls to Yahuwah, Elohim, by Hashem Yahusha. If they ain't doing that, then what are they doing? Because this ain't just about giving you no information. It's about winning your soul, snatching you to Yah. That's what it's about. Nevertheless, let's swing over here to Galatians chapter 2. We just use Galatians chapter 2. I don't need 2 Corinthians chapter 5. I don't need to be redundant. And then Revelation chapter 2. Galatians 2 and 8 and 20. I am crucified with Mashiach, nevertheless I live, yet not I, but Mashiach live in me. And the life which I now live in the flesh, I live by the faith of the Son of Elohim, who loved me and gave himself for me. See, this man did this in order for you to bear forth their fruit, so you can have high. Because see, Adam and Eve decided to live for themselves and live for their desires. So there was a need, it necessitated a need for a Savior to come die for you, so that you could live for him now. and that you could be byproduct of that fruit. Because you notice that's that seed, and you know it says in Isaiah 53, his seed shall he'll see his seed and they shall prosper. But in order for a tree to bring forth fruit, a seed has to be planted. Revelation chapter 2 though, because we finna wind it down. We're gonna wind it down, let y'all slide. Revelation chapter 2 though. Let me get my verse though. I'm looking right at it. I hate when I do that. 2 and 7. But matter of fact, 2 and 3. Revelation 2 and 3. Make it 2 and 2. I know thy works, and thy labor, and thy patience, and how thou cannot bear them which are evil, and thou hast tried them which say they are apostles and are not, and last, and hast found them liars, and has borne and has patience, for my name's sake, has labored and has not fainted. Nevertheless, I have somewhat against thee, because thou hast left thy first love. Remember therefore from whence thou art fallen, and repent, and do the first works, or else I will come unto thee quickly, and remove thy candlestick out of his place, except thou repent. But this thou hate the deeds of Nicolaitans, which I also hate. He that have an ear, let him hear what the Ruach saith unto the synagogues. To him that overcome will I give to eat of the tree of life, which is in the midst of the paradise of Elohim. See, Adam didn't overcome. So therefore, Adam could not have right to that tree. That's why he had a block. He didn't overcome. Yahusha overcome, which allowed those who believed on him to have right to come in there, to even be able to partake, to even get close in there to it. So you got to understand that if you want to have a right to the tree of life, you got to overcome. Because it said the fruits of the righteous are a tree of life. All the fruits that a Mashiach did, because we see him resurrecting from the dead, which is that tree of life. Because now you have life through him. Now you have right to come unto it. All you got to do, that's why we read the John 16, because he overcame the world. So if you overcome the world, you can have right to this tree. Overcome. I mean, overcome yourself, because you got to hate your own life. You got to hate the world. You got to hate sinners. When we say hate, I don't choose you. I don't affiliate with that. I will remove myself from this situation before I lose the chance to have right to the tree of life. Because you already read in Genesis what happened when they had lost the right. They can't live forever now. If they could have got to that tree, they could have lived forever. So you know if you don't get hold of that tree, you dying forever. Why do that when this righteous man is showing forth the fruit? So that you could get to this tree. And he showed forth that he came to win souls. He didn't come for nothing else. He said, I didn't come to call the righteous. I came to call sinners to repentance. I'm here to win souls. That's what I'm here for. Yeah, I can sit in here and debate with you dudes and crash you niggas on every corner. It's nothing. It's light work. But I'm not here for that. I'm not here for that. When you look at the apostles going through it, they were going through it contending for the faith for men to believe on Yahusha. But after a while, if they went to talking evil and talking stupid, them boys ducked their feet off on them. They ain't sit around there fooling with them niggas like that. They did not do that. Revelation 22 and 1. Actually, pause. Revelation 21 and 1. Let's deal with what we got in Isaiah and Zechariah first. Places would be rebuilt. Golly. Right when we about to get done and do that. So we're not in that place. That place is not